How do you analyze your chess games? By not being lazy. So we're going to go over that. If you have access to game review on chess.com, this will be very useful. If you don't, you could still analyze your chess games. It's going to be just a little bit different. So we're going to look at 3 of my games here I played the other day, right before I became 1600 rated. I haven't shared this with you guys, these games. And I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't play well, but there's a lot to learn from it. One thing to say, if you don't have game review, you could still analyze on your own and use computer, I think you could use computer moves, or you could use an engine from another website and kind of figure out the best moves and think about why those moves work or don't work, right? But here we have access to more information, so we're going to use that information. And the first few moves is fine. It's just a Vienna game, which I've been learning, and I've learned that, okay, if the knight mirrors here, you can't play the gambit if you want to, because a lot of times the knight will get into the position like this, coming here. Anyway, mirroring is one way to play it. And here I just bring my knight out because a lot of times knights will come out here. You're going to try to take control of the center, which is what I do because after this exchange, things look good. Now here I was scared of a bishop coming here, attacking my knight, having 2 pieces attacking my knight, right? I didn't want to be too passive, so I went for the trade. Whereas in reality, what a simple threat, and yet the best move, right? So what can I learn from this? I can learn always to look for checks, captures, and threats, but also to keep the tension, right? This is a rule that I kind of gave myself and talked about in the past, which is a lot of times you want to keep the tension between pieces. This keeps the tension between these 2 knights. You know, you're not taking right away. You're kind of improving your position and seeing what else you can do, right? My opponent in this case had 2 pawn moves on the side of the board, right? Which doesn't, like, yeah, this lets him bring the bishop out. This prevents my bishop from coming here and pinning his knight to his queen. But it's he's playing kind of passively, right? And I was scared of this threat, but I'm creating my own threat of checkmate, right? So it's not that simple to decide what to do. The game might have resulted in this, and I'm still threatening the same thing, right? So a lot of cool kind of concepts and ideas. And I mean, the game's not over. The knight can come here to defend this checkmate threat, and you could in turn threaten the knight. Your queen is becoming more active. You're bringing more pieces. It's not simple. I'm not saying that I would know the best moves here, but I'm saying gaining the general ideas of why the move you made was a mistake or a miss, I think is important, instead of just saying, oh, this is a miss, this would have been better. You know, kind of understanding where the position would lead to is a good way to review and get better by analyzing your chess games. I think it's more important to analyze in this manner. Of course, analyzing master games is important too, but if you're analyzing your own games, right? So here I bring the queen here, and right away it's telling me to push this pawn forward. Very interesting, right? A lot of times in the Vienna game, I mean, this is how you start the Vienna gambit, which gambits this pawn to get some quick development and pressuring your opponent's position. So here I could have done this move. And a lot of times I don't understand in my reviews, because I don't spend time to actually analyze them, I don't understand, why does it say this move is bad now but good 2 moves later, right? Like this move is saying they're saying this is the best move now. Later they're going to say it's not the best move. I'm going to show you why in just a moment. So when I move my queen here, I block in my pawn, which means my pawn isn't able to gain more space, and it's not able to protect this center pawn and help it push or whatever. The thing is, this is also not scary in a defensive type of way, because the queen can't come in and check. It's kind of a waste of the queen's efforts, maybe, because you could just block that. Okay, I bring the queen out instead. Now I'm threatening. You see, this is exactly what I mean. The engine says it's not the best now, but it was best a few moves ago, right? Now I'm still threatening this mate threat, but that mate threat was a better threat to threaten. There's a lot of threats in that sentence over here. Right? So why is that the case? Well, this threatens it right away, and he has to deal with that threat right away, and there's no real easy way to deal with it. One way is what we looked at, which was like this. This is a way to deal with it. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best moves. Engine is also saying coming here, probably because you're threatening the queen, forcing him to come here, and like you're really ruining the structure of Black's pawns, right? He's not going to be able to castle. All of that is kind of possible when you move the queen here. In this case, a few moves later, when the knights are out, now you can see the big difference. The big difference is this knight comes in attacking, forking 2 pieces, and preventing this mate threat. Right? So in this case, my best moves, I would assume, to just move back to e2. It says go e3. I don't really understand e3. What if he just takes? Then it says go d4. Ah, wow. That is tricky. Anyway. I didn't do that. I just blundered my bishop. Okay? Very, like, easy to see mistake for my level, at least, for me. But, like, all of these ideas were very interesting to me. Like, oh, moving the pawn now is good, but before putting the queen here was good. Like, the knight's mobility and the fact that my knight is not here anymore, right? Since I traded it off. That's what changes the position so much. It's, like, super interesting. I don't really look at that much when I analyze, but that's what I should do. That's what everyone should do, you know? Try to understand the position better. Anyway, he comes there, but my opponent makes the best move, and I blunder my bishop. I wanted to continuously have eyes here. I just completely ignored that I blundered it. My opponent misses it somehow, so I just push my bishop back. He opens up his bishop, and I try to, you know, protect this knight, because I'm scared of this attack. I don't want my pawns doubled. Okay. His pawn attacks, and I move my queen to the side. See, I'm not analyzing everything. You could, but I think that sometimes we might put too much work onto ourselves, and then we're gonna get lazy, right? If you try to analyze every single move, maybe it's good, but how likely are you gonna actually push yourself to do that? I know I can't. So analyzing, you know, as long as you're gaining something from it, I think it's worth it. Anyway, like here, for example, moving the queen backwards was better, but I didn't do that. And after he attacks my queen, I move to this side. Very interestingly, I think this move kind of ruined the game for me. And I'll explain why in just a few moves here. And you see, right? The f4 move doesn't work now where it worked before. Very interesting, right? He could have taken here. Takes. And he goes to e7. I don't know. The engine is saying certain things. I thought this was still scary, very scary, but apparently it's very neutral. Probably because the black can just trade off the bishops and be fine. You have enough protection. You could castle long, maybe, whatever. Even castle short, possibly. I don't know. The position changed a lot from before when f4 was possible. Anyway, the reason I didn't like, the reason why I analyzed this as worse than this, just by looking at the engine, my understanding of it is that my queen on g3 stops this knight move, which actually ends up being the move that almost makes me resign this game. I move my queen to the side, his bishop comes in, and all of a sudden he has this strong attack, or what I perceive to be a strong attack. I'm stupid. I forget the simple way to counter this, which I've learned and I've used. It's just I haven't been in this situation in a while. But you could just move the rook here, and now you're stopping any threats. I didn't do that. I castled. The knight came in, and I lost my rook. And here things just go downward. Like, I don't take it back right away. I just try to break open his position and come in. And I'm just continuously kind of like making mistakes. I'm ignoring that knight to try to make more crazy moves. He rightfully blocks with his queen. And we're not going to go over everything because of the reasons I kind of mentioned before. First of all, here, I don't know how I missed this. That's just, I win the knight. I think I kind of saw it, but I was going for something bigger. I was trying to create threats where there weren't any. Anyway, all of these mistakes happen. And here's something interesting happens. Could have moved my knight here. It's interesting because of this, and now black is really on the defensive and has to be careful here, and you lose your queen. And yeah, it's just a very, very interesting position. I think mates and threes, mate and fours would help me kind of navigate this area of the game better. This is a brilliant because if he takes with his bishop, I fork and win his queen. But I'm not going to analyze the rest of this. I did analyze a little bit, but I'm not going to like go too much into detail because I think the way for me to improve upon these types of mistakes are by doing more mate in 3, mate in 4 puzzles, things like that. And I spent time calculating here. Here I actually saw the mate in like 4. At this point, I was so proud of myself. I was like, he moved the pawn forward. That looks weird. And I calculated this with a minute left on the clock in a 15-minute game. So this was a super cool mate. But yeah, there was a lot of mistakes there. If you paid attention, like I didn't focus on every single mistake. Okay. Second game here, we have a Scandinavian. Develop the knight, and already on move, what is this, 5? I'm not making an optimal move, and it's a move that I've made in the past. I've made this move in the past, I've made this move in the past. Maybe if you talk to like international masters or grandmasters or national masters, I don't know. If you talk to really strong players, maybe they say, it's okay that you made that move. It's a developing move, it's still the beginning of the game. But it's also good, I think, to understand why the engine says this is better, right? The other move was better. Especially if it's interesting to you, if it's in beginning of an opening that you go into a lot of times. And here it just makes sense that you're grabbing space and you're still giving a lot of space for your bishops to move. You're kind of waiting to see what your opponent will do to have more flexibility of where you move your pieces. That's how I interpret this move, right? Pushing the pawn forward. Anyway, I bring the bishop forward. I come here with the pawn. The game starts to progress forward. And you can see I'm very passive in how I'm playing. I'm trying to prevent this threat. I try to do that a lot. Where my best move was just to put my queen out here. Which I analyzed a bit, but like my thought process would be, okay, what about this? You know, well, it doesn't work. Right now I could kick it out. The engine is calculating some other things, but just from a simple way of thinking, first of all, I could do this, maybe ruin the pawn structure, come in like with these pieces. But assuming that wasn't possible, like I could just kick it out, right? I think sometimes I'm too afraid of knights, or I don't calculate like what knights can actually do. Anyway, all these moves happen. And right away, you see a lot of inaccuracies. You see me moving pieces that don't do much. So this protects the bishop, but it's already protected. You know, this move towards the king. Not only that, but I start moving all these pawns on the sides, allowing my opponent to come into the position. It's just not a good idea. He has so much space. He can start encroaching into my space very quickly. And he does. He tries to kick away my bishop. I trade. And now I'm kind of forced into this awkward position, trying to protect this pawn because the knight goes away. And yeah, things don't go well. Now, this was a big question mark. You could see the ELO bar change. That's stuff you want to focus more on analysis, right? It's a big mistake that you might just ignore. It's like, oh, yeah, develop the rook is better than bringing the knight. But why? Right? Well, it turns out, and I calculated this part, turns out this is not that good for white. I calculated all that. I thought it was fine. I was hoping to get into that scenario. It's not good. Because really quickly, your opponent could start creating threats. And if you just try to come here to protect, he's going to try to double up, you know? My thought process was, oh, what if my knight comes here now, right? He can't double up. Well, now there's this, and I lose the pawn. And this pawn's going to go down, possibly, right? Not the best stuff. So I didn't see all of that in the game, obviously. I didn't see 2 or 3 steps ahead. But in the analysis, at least I looked into it enough to understand why the engine says it's bad. And hopefully that'll help me in the future. So in the future, maybe I'll be like, but this is weakening here and my rook is forced to defend this pawn. That doesn't look good. You know, maybe I'll start thinking about it more so in those terms. Anyway, he doesn't take. Attack his bishop. He still doesn't take. And then I come in with this move because this wins me a pawn. And my opponent just blunders the queen. Okay, nothing more to say there. Last game here, we're not going to go too much into depth just because we went through a lot in the first 2 games. But I don't know anything about the King's Gambit, really. I just know accepting it is fine. And already on the 3rd, 4th move, I have this move. I didn't know. I think the idea here is you have a kingside attack brewing. And that was my general thing that didn't work here. The reason I pushed this pawn forward is I was scared of this center game, this center stuff going on. Like I thought, oh, what do I do after this? Apparently I counterattack is the idea. And if takes, obviously takes, and if takes, then well, you could do several things. You could probably check. So now his king can't castle. You could check again. He can't block it because of the pawn, right? Let's say he goes here or whatever. Then you could take and you have these two crazy bishops. Like, I would see myself as winning here. So I was scared of something because I didn't analyze further, you know? I think analyzing your games after you play them, it could be helpful in the sense that you're not under time pressure. So you could actually spend more time analyzing, and you could focus on the problem areas and try to figure them out. Because the engine doesn't give you all the answers. It just tells you this is an inaccurate move, right? You have to figure out, or hopefully you'll try to figure out why this doesn't work. Potentially, right? Or why it's not scary, right? So, yeah, analyzing your own games, you have more time to go over those types of stuff. Anyway, I don't do this g5 move at all, and I let him take the pawn, because I think it's fine in gambits for them to take the pawn back, because I'm developing in the meantime. I come in here for the bishop not to come out, but it's kind of getting a little scary. My opponent has... I need to develop more pieces, you know? I need to do more stuff. Computer says to take here. I guess it's because the knight stops protecting this, and now I'm threatening this, and the queen probably has to go back to defend. I guess it doesn't. It could go here because it targets the knight at the same time. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, I didn't see it. So something I'll keep in mind, right? Like when I'm analyzing this game right now, is applying this principle, applying this way of thinking to the future. So right now in my brain, I'm saying, okay, in the future, if I see something like this, I should consider it a real thing that I could take. And I should consider a way to deflect from it, right? This looks a little weird. That's what I should think. If takes, I get the pawn. Now, what if he takes back with this pawn? What can I do then, right? Look how beautiful that move is. You're coming into the position nicely, you're going to win the pawn. Right? So, if something like this happens, like you're just winning. You're up a pawn and just a great position. Anyway, interesting stuff. You know, I didn't see any of that. And if I analyzed it normally, I wouldn't have. Hopefully I'm not too repetitive here and it's useful information I'm giving. I'm also learning, right? Anyway, as for those that don't know, this is day 62 on my journey to 2000. Every day I'm learning and trying to get better at chess to get a 2000 rating in Rapid. Anyway, the game progresses. Finally do this g5 move. And you can see it's a very different type of game, very closed game that starts opening up. And I play very passively scared that my king can get attacked. I finally castle, the game progresses, and then I find this nice sequence of moves. I see, okay, takes. So basically I lose a rook and I gain 2 knights. Seems really good. I'm sorry, I lose 2 rooks. I gain a rook and 2 knights, right? Seems like I'm up material. If I play smart, I'll win. Okay. Here I mess up because he could just take, and it's the same idea as what I did. This is a simple thing to understand, right? Takes, and it's queen against queen. I mean, I'm still winning, but it would have been better if I brought the knight here. It's still protecting any check, and if the rook attacks, my queen comes back watching the f8 square, so he can't come in with check. Only analyzing after the fact, after the game, more intensely, made me understand why it was okay for the rook to come attack me. Because the queen ends up watching that f8 square. Like, that's not something I would anticipate. Like, I underappreciate how good the queen can be. Anyway, those were the 3 games I wanted to go over. Hopefully it helped you in some way. Thanks for watching. If you watched this far, say microphone in the comments to let me know. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for the support. Hope your journey in chess is doing well, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.